Hi, how you doing? It's Russell James. You're watching The Raw Chef TV. Today we're going to be making nut milk, and you may have heard of nut milk. You can also make it with hemp seed or sesame seeds. There's a whole different variety of seeds and nuts that you can make it with, but I actually prefer to make it with hazelnuts. The reason being, hazelnut milk is really good if you want to use it in tea or coffee because it doesn't separate like almond milk does. And actually almond milk is becoming pretty popular now. You can buy it in cartons in the supermarket, which is great, but there's always something more that you can do. And I'd really, at least once, suggest trying out making your own nut milk because it really is hugely different from the stuff that you can buy in cartons nutritionally, and also you can really taste the difference as well. Once we've made this almond milk, I'm going to show you a couple of little things you can do with it in terms of flavour. And once it's made, it will keep in the fridge for about 2 to 3 days. So, a couple of ingredients you want to start with. First of all, you've got your the nuts of choice. So, as I said, in this case, we're using hazelnuts. If you're using, whether you're using hazelnuts or cashews, macadamias, almonds, just soak them overnight. It's a really easy thing to be able to do. To go in just before you go to bed, put your hazelnuts into soak, and then by the time you come back in the morning, you can just give them a quick rinse off, and they'll be ready to go. So, I've got a cup of soaked hazelnuts and 3 cups of water already in my blender. So the first stage, and really the only and the main stage really to get your nut milk, is just to blend these up together. Now I'm using a Vitamix here, but you don't, especially if you've soaked the nuts, you don't necessarily need a really fancy, expensive, powerful blender like this. Just a normal home blender will do the trick perfectly well. And now that is kind of really essentially your nut milk, but some people do like to have it like that, but obviously we've got the fibre left in there. So the way to strain that off is, you can do this in a sieve. I'm using a nut milk bag, which you can find online. And this gives obviously a much smoother milk that we can then bottle up and put in the fridge. Okay, so that's our nut milk. Now, with this pulp that you've got, you can actually just freeze this as it is until you're ready to use it. If you've got a dehydrator, you can dehydrate it into flour, and you can actually make breads and cookies, and we'll cover that in a different episode. I can show you how to do that. But this is your nut milk. That could just go in a bottle as it is in the fridge, keep it for 2 to 3 days and use it as you need it. Most people like to sweeten their nut milk from that point. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that. I like to use dates, because it's a whole food. And what you tend to find there is if I blend those dates into the milk as it is, you tend to get a little bit of sediment from all the little bits of date that haven't quite blended up properly. So if you blend the dates in with the nuts in the very first blending and then strain them out, you'll get a sweet nut milk with no sediment at the bottom. But I'm going to show you a little trick here, and it's something you can go away and do, and it's just going to demonstrate to you the different flavours and how you bring different flavours in and make something taste nicely rounded in terms of having all of the elements there. So I'm just going to clean out the blender, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to do that. So I've got a nice clean blender now, and to sweeten this up, I'm going to pop this back into that clean blender. So that's my nut milk without any of the fibre. And like I say, I like to use dates. If you're going to use something like coconut sugar, it's really just going to all sink to the bottom. So at least with dates, even though you do get a little bit of sediment, it mostly blends up and just makes the whole thing taste really nice. So you may have heard me talking in my recipes about having an element of fat, acid, salt and sweet in everything. So nut milk on its own is just fat in terms of all those elements. So now we've added a sweet, which is where most people stop, and actually, that's fine. That produces a really nice nut milk because you've sweetened up that nut milk as it is. But when you do this, as a little experiment, make your nut milk, have a taste of it, add some dates or whatever sweet you want to use and have a taste of it. And then we're going to add a little bit of lemon juice and taste it again, and then a pinch of salt and taste it again. Now, it's not like every single nut milk you make is going to have lemon juice in it and salt, but it's a really good exercise to show you how, when you round out the flavours like that, it really works nicely. So let's blend in these dates first of all. Okay, great. So, you know, I know what nut milk tastes like on its own. So having tasted that nut milk on its own, then you just taste for sweetness. Fantastic. Okay. So just with that taste kind of still in your mouth, add a little bit of lemon juice, quick blend. And we'll get a clean spoon and have another little taste. And you can really taste how much of a difference that makes. It's so subtle, but when you taste it close to not having the lemon juice in there, you can really taste the difference. And then same thing, a couple of pinches of salt. So I'm using pink Himalayan salt here. Just have another little pinch there. Again, another quick blend. One last taste. And again, it just gets better each time. Really do give this a go. I think you're going to find it really useful in terms of knowing how fat, acid, salt, sweet rounds out flavours, and also you're going to end up with a really fantastic nut milk that we can just pop in a bottle, and it's going to keep in the fridge, like I said, for about 2 or 3 days. It's great just to drink as it is. It's great as a base for smoothies. It's great for you know, porridge, chia seed porridge. You can check out my other recipes, and there's plenty of ideas on how to use this nut milk. It's just one of those things that's great to have around, and just such a difference from anything you can buy in a carton. There we go, all ready to go. Have fun.